bureaucracy system. No, I must place the union in proper pathway for people to understand.
Welcome to the program. First, it was Ebola a few years ago, which was reportedly caused by a particular species of bats. Then came Lassa fever, which ravaged Nigeria while people were advised to stop eating bushmeat and rats. Now it's monkeypox, another viral disease believed to be caused by monkeys and squirrels, leaving its host with huge rashes all over the body, including the palms and the sole of the feet. Again, Nigeria's public health system is called to question with the outbreak of the infection in about 7 states, at least for now. It started in Bayelsa in late September with one suspected case. The medical doctor who was attending to that index case, if you like, also got infected in the process. And from Bayelsa State to Akwa Ibom, then Rivers States, 7 states have now recorded cases of the viral disease. At the last count, the National Center for Disease Control put the number of suspected cases at 33. All of them are undergoing treatment and no death has been recorded so far. In Nigeria's commercial city of Lagos, the state government says it has 2 cases of persons with symptoms similar to the disease, but yet to confirm through laboratory test. The government is calling on citizens to take personal and environmental hygiene very seriously to avoid infection. Let's take a listen now to the State Commissioner for Health, Jide Idris.
Though there is presently no specific antiviral therapy for monkeypox, the disease itself is self-limiting and also could be managed conservatively. The preventive measures to be taken against the spread of this disease include, which is what we normally say again, the basic things we need to do. Avoiding close contact with infected people, avoiding the consumption of bushmeat and dead animals, cooking of meat and meat products thoroughly before eating, and washing of hands with soap and running water frequently and thoroughly. In the wake of this outbreak, the Lagos State government is reiterating the need for members of the public to observe and maintain a high standard of personal and environmental hygiene at all times as part of the precautionary measures to prevent the spread of the disease. Members of the public are further advised to be vigilant and report any suspected case of disease to the nearest public health facility or the Directorate of Disease Control in the Ministry of Health. Also, health workers are advised to practice what we call universal safety precautions in the management of suspected or confirmed cases. That includes wearing the appropriate personal protective equipment when attending to cases. This also is very pertinent to all private and also public officers. Personal protective equipment includes wearing of hand gloves when you are treating patients, face masks, eye goggles just in case you feel some of these secretions can splash into your face. They also to wash their hands after each contact with the patient or contaminated materials while surveillance systems must be strengthened. The state government has mobilized the disease control officers in the 57 local governments and LCDs in the state, and health workers in both public and private facilities have been placed on high alert. We have sent out fact sheets to all health facilities, both public and private, telling them what the disease is all about, how it is spread, how it presents, how it is diagnosed, and what measures they should take even when treating such patients. And I wish to end again by calling on the good people of Lagos State to remain calm and go about their businesses without fear, as the state government has put in place adequate measures to effectively prevent and control the spread of this infection in the state.
Now, very little is known about this disease in public, and part of the reason is that the last time Nigeria had an outbreak of this disease was way back in 1978. So health authorities in the country have now begun a media campaign to further enlighten people about the disease, how it can be contracted, and what to do to avoid it. We have also been speaking to one of the country's top virologists and professor of medical virology at the College of Medicine of the University of Lagos, Professor Sunday Olumelabu, and here's what he's been saying about the disease and what you can actually do to avoid it.
I think monkeypox virus, to tell us that it belongs to the pox viruses. And we are familiar with smallpox, which is caused by variola, which we've globally eradicated. It's also related to vaccinia, a virus that we know that we can work with in the lab, which is very mild. And of course, cowpox, which we are familiar with, occurring among cattle. So monkeypox belongs to these families of what we call autopox viruses. And they are carried by animals. So it causes zoonotic diseases. And we can get infection through excreta of animals carrying the virus. And for the human beings to get infected, which means they must have had interactions with animals carrying it. From the name monkey, the first isolate was stumbled upon in the late 40s from monkeys captured around the Congo Democratic Republic. And ever since then, we know that apart from monkeys, other animals, especially rodents, carry this virus. Among squirrel, and you know we have squirrel among us here, and then we have other rodents that also transmitted the virus. So once human beings get in contact with these animals, so the humans will now grow the virus within their system. And you can now find human-to-human transmission where you have a number of human infections. And by this time around, the viruses are found in the fluid of crust of eruptions on the human skins. And apart from inhalation of this crust, we can also get this from water, from food that we eat, even from infected doorknobs and so on that we handle. So the spread can be very, very fast once it comes between human and humans where there is poor sanitation. The disease is not classified as too dangerous because we know it behaves like other pox viruses, especially cowpox and vaccinia. The mortality recorded so far is between 1 to 5%. And that tells us that it's not as deadly as some other viruses that we are familiar with. So, like Lassa, like Ebola, like yellow fever. It's not as deadly as those ones, but it's highly infectious. We know where the virus is. They are inside the wild animals, rodents, monkeys, and other animals that we know are in the bush. And then we know the level of our interactions with these animals. To our bush dwellers, to our hunters, to our herdsmen that they have to stay in the bush, so they have to be wary of their food products, of what they eat. It shouldn't be contaminated with urine, feces of these animals. And then, of course, they have to be wary of fruit they are eating. If they must eat fruit, they have to wash it well. Any of these infected animals can contaminate the fruits. So if we are to eat fruits raw, we should wash it very well. And then, of course, before we eat anything at all, we have to wash our hands, just to keep to simple hygienic lifestyle. All this one will prevent us from contracting the virus.
Joining me now to discuss this issue further, I have Dr. Tuyim Ebaondu, who is a public health practitioner, and Dr. Lawal Bakare, formerly of the National Center for Disease Control, and he's also a disease control and public health expert. Gentlemen, thank you very much for coming on the program. Let me start with you. We had Ebola, Lassa fever, there was meningitis. It's like all of these diseases were taking their turns to come, and now we have monkeypox. Yeah. What's going on?
Yes, thank you very much. So monkeypox, I would say, is it caught us unawares. And my reasons for saying that is, naturally, we have already seen like a pattern to disease outbreaks. And normally, we know the things to expect and what not to expect around a certain period of the year. So what wasn't happening in the past was our readiness for those ones that we could properly anticipate. So an Ebola in the US caught the US unawares because, in fact, we would say the US could have been better prepared for their outbreak of Ebola. But monkeypox It's fairly new. The last time we had a case...
Never in your radar?
Never in the radar, 1978. What we would have said is, and I would even say that the fact that we were even able to identify the first case when the patient was still at the level of the hospital is still a bit of a sign that, okay, maybe people are beginning to have better sense of index of suspicion, because the child went to the hospital and the physician saw the child there. But that it's spreading this fast was actually what was even surprising to me, because I just thought they saw the first case, this is self-limiting. We expect that possibly it could be contained within the geography that it started from. But right now, we're recording suspected cases now from other parts of the country. And hopefully when the laboratory results come out, we will discover properly what we've been dealing with. But it's also a very really, for me, I wouldn't say that personally I was prepared for that. And I didn't see the public health systems anticipating this sort of disease at this point in time. If it was a Lassa fever, which we are currently recording around the year anyways, meningitis would be surprising if we record any community get into the alert threshold or epidemic threshold right now. But monkeypox, no, it wasn't part of what...
Dr. T, let's look at this. Could we, 33 cases, at least that's what we've been told, across 7 states. Is there a possibility that all of these cases could be linked to that, well, let me call it the index case now in Bielsa? Is there a possibility? Because if they are not linked, then we're also in problem here. I mean, if we have this disease breaking out in various states, then there's a problem.
Yeah, again, it could actually be, I believe they are linked. And it could actually be isolated cases again, but I believe they are linked again, because what has happened is...
At least in the case of Lagos, for instance, we understand
because,
that,
you know, we see a lot of movement, you know, from the southern part, I mean, coming to Lagos. Even along those places, those clusters, we've seen those diseases now. We know that people do a lot of movement. And then now, for me, I'm not actually surprised that we're having another outbreak of an epidemic. I'm not surprised.
But not monkeypox.
Oh, but why not monkeypox? Because the reservoir, these wild animals are the reservoir of these diseases, of these germs. What they need to do, what needs to happen is that the germ needs to jump from those wild animals or human or domesticated animals to human being. Once they jump, they now rely on human being to spread it across board. And for us, we've been having, you know, an extensive ingress into the bushes. We've been, you know, clearing. Human settlement has been increasing. We're involved in a lot of agriculture. We're doing a lot of mineral exploitation. All these activities will bring us in contact with these animals. Now, and then secondly, our point at the point of, you know, reducing this is at surveillance. When we talk about surveillance, we have challenges with surveillance, you know, in this part of the world.
Serious challenges.
Because, you know, there are human resources needed. We need epidemiologists, you know, you need community health practitioners. You need laboratory, you know, that can really pick diseases as early as possible. You need a serious campaign. You need finance. All these things. And then to wasn't the whole thing, we have a weak health system, you know, that cannot really be responding and responsive to such an outbreak, you know, that is not agile enough to, tackle those outbreaks before, you know, they come. And then in other parts of the world, people now look, you know, go there and do a surveillance to spot even the germs before they jump into human being at the level of the animal. So when they spot it, they can now fashion out has to stop the outbreak from entering into the human population. But for us, a lot of challenges, you know, and that is why, as far as I'm concerned, it may actually be one epidemic after the other, except we sincerely sit down and take our health system, public health system, very seriously.
You had worked in the past, I mean, for the National Center for Disease Control. Why do you think it's been difficult for the National Center for Disease Control to actually carry out like the kind of surveillance you talked about? Why do we have to wait for this? Why does the center have to wait for this to happen? Because it's just been reactive, not proactive.
Okay, so I will speak from two perspectives. I'll speak from the institutionally, the Center for Disease Control itself is one of the golden institutions of Nigeria that needs support. The people working there are really committed Nigerians, not just civil servants. They're really committed Nigerians. These are people that sometimes even sleep over at work. However, today, the bill that institutionalizes the organization has not been signed by the National Assembly. So it is right there hoping that one day we'll get the NCDC will be properly signed into the law of Nigeria. And that translates into the resource capability of the institution. It also translates into how many more civil servants or workers they can hire. So a lot of what has been happening there, which moves to the other side, is that they've been benefiting a lot from international partners and also a bit of support from within other government agencies. And on the other side too, locally, we are also experimenting with a little more tools to support what the NCDC is doing. For instance, in Lagos at the moment, we are piloting a technology that allows people to record whatever, to report whatever they see quickly.
That's an alert clinic.
Yeah, the alert clinic. So we developed the alert clinic in partnership with the Lagos State Ministry of Health, and the NCDC in Abuja are also following up on this to see if we could now make the system more sensitive so that people at household level could quickly report whatever they find.
Have you gotten any report at all on monkeypox?
Well, for now, we are just in Lagos mainland local government, and we've not been able to record any case of this monkeypox in the local government, that's Lagos mainland. So hopefully this kind of thing can now be able to generate much more responsive feedback from citizens, because truly the idea of surveillance is not to go into community with a bias of what to expect. It is to keep the system open to what might be happening in there. And that is what gives rise to the idea of indicator-based surveillance and the event-based surveillance. So indicator-based surveillance is what allows us to go into community with certain expectation of certain indicators as outbreaks. But when we go with event-based mind, anything could be happening. And sometimes it may not even be diseases, it could be chemical, like communities where they are doing a lot of mining. There could be lead poisoning going on there. Communities where they are doing a lot of animal husbandry, there could be some zoonotic infections going on there. It could even be from food. We've had incidences even this year of people drinking some local gins and people died out of that. So really, we hope that with tools like Alert Clinic, we will now be able to get more citizens to be able to be more vigilant around their entire health as opposed to looking for rashes. That when you are feeling febrile, it could be malaria, yes, but it could be Ebola. That when you're having diarrhea, yes, it could just be that the child is stooling out of some other thing, but it could be cholera that is looming. And when we are able to now, as citizens, realize that what we do when you observe something happening in your body is to quickly, like it happens in other parts of the world, quickly report to the healthcare system. So we hope that with tools like Alert Clinic, we can do that. And a lot of innovation are also coming in gradually. Even at the level of the NCDC now, we are able to transmit data faster from states to the federal government. Most of these things have been definitely supported by international institutions or private sector institutions like us. But we hope that down the line, when the NCDC gets better institutionalized and we have more inputs from external institutions like our home, we'll be able to get
we don't know for how long that wait will
yes,
will
and
last.
really as a country, yes, it is a dangerous wait. And for me, I would advocate that as a country, we should back the NCDC and advocate to the National Assembly, whatever, we fast-tracked some kind of laws in this country. This is one of those laws that needs to be fast-tracked. No country jokes with a national public health institution. The United Kingdom, other parts of the world that we've been to, even some other African countries, South Africa doesn't joke with a national public health institution. This is the place where the health of the citizens are really, really being protected. It is not these institutions, and if you look at the way the institutions are formed, these are not institutions that we're going to do politics. No. These guys are just a bunch of scientists, and all they do is science. You can see when Professor Milabu was talking. These are just scientists. These guys are not into they are not, these are the guys that really cared about getting the job done. And these are the kind of decisions the country needs to support. Nigeria is too big for all these kind of decisions. It is not a thing. It is not a thing for Nigeria to go ahead, institutionalize our public institution and protect the citizens.
Dr. T, you look at the response so far, the response on this monkeypox, I mean, from health authorities in this country. You satisfied?
Yeah, let's commend the Bayelsa people, honestly, because for them to come out quickly,
yes,
announce the thing, quarantine people, and then start spreading the information to the people, that's commendable. Yes. And I'm really impressed that even at the level of Bayelsa,
that they could
do that. Now they could do more if we actually empower them to do more. If we actually support them to do more. Now, for instance, I had expected that, at this level, even from the level of the Center for Disease Control, even at the level of even the State Center for Disease Control,
yes,
they should have deepened health literacy, even in the language that is understandable, in your own community. Please, these are the things that need to happen. We shouldn't wait until an epidemic breaks before we start informing people about how to take care of their health. They should be on the road and be seeing a billboard that is telling them these are the 1, 2, 3, 4 things you should do to prevent this. They should know their figures, their key health figures, your weight, your height, your blood pressure, the relationship between that, and what if you're passing urine too much. These are the kind of likely things that can happen, because there are also non-communicable disease epidemics.
Right.
You know, epidemic could be diabetes epidemic, it could be epidemic of anything, it could be drugs epidemic. So we should be able to have that kind of snapshot that will help us to understand that peculiarly in this environment, in this state, these are the big problems we're dealing with. We may not be dealing with Lassa fever, we may not be dealing with meningitis, but honestly, these are the things we're dealing with. Now, since that thing happened in Bayelsa, we've seen another wonderful response at the level of Lagos, where they moved out and said that, listen, we know that this is a hub for everybody to come in, and then as you are bringing money, you can also bring disease. So this is what here and no further. This is what you can do. This is, you know, but again,
but do you think enough has been done? I mean, no doubt.
We can do better.
But yeah, because
can,
if you ask me,
at the federal
I still
level,
can see this information everywhere.
At the federal level, you know, what we're seeing is that when these things happen, we are used to just appearing on television and reading a prepared text. We're used to saying that don't just calm down. How are they going to calm down? The social impact, the health impact, the psychological impact of an epidemic, the economic impact. During the Ebola period, we lost 2.8 billion. You know, I mean, the countries combined. That's a humongous amount of money. If you now added inclusive cost, the people that died, that are supposed to be a graduate that died, the people that are supposed to be feeding family that died, then it becomes a bigger thing. So for us, we should not just wait and then at the level of the state ESCO or federal ESCO and then be reading the books and saying this and this and that. That is not sufficient. We're expecting, honestly, a clear-cut movement, a clear-cut demonstration of, you know, to assure that, you see, your health is safe in this country. We had the Institute of Virology. What are we getting from it? We had this Yaba vaccine center in Yaba. What are we getting from it? So at this point now, if we're growing the way we should grow, we should be able to even be doing our own research and pushing forward. Yes, the fatality rate is low, but tell you what, these are bioterror agents. You know, these viruses are bioterror agents. It can be used to even transmit and can even be, you know, tweaked to cause more danger to human beings. And I've said, if the world is going to end, it's either going to end by a massive epidemic that we cannot understand, or end by some silly climate change, or even a meteorite hitting the world. So that's, you know, we should be mindful that health, public health, is so fundamental, and we must give the priority it deserves.
You just said something. There's no question at all. We heard the professor say that you look at the mortality rate so far, just between 1% and 5%, quite low. But do you think, don't you fear that if this is not handled very well, this could eventually become worse than Ebola?
Well, it may not be worse than Ebola, but again, we see the morbidity in terms of, you know, disruption of even the damages it's going to cause to the skin, in terms of even disruption to the public life, the economy, because right now
and the social life.
If I ask you to go and do business in Bayelsa, you have to think twice. Say, wait a minute, I'm not coming. I mean, that is the way it is. And if you look at that kind of cost, you know, it's going to be really, really much. But for it to be as bad as Ebola, I don't think so. The virus needs to mutate to get to that kind of thing.
What do you think, Lau?
Yes. So, Dr. Tui mentioned two things. One is in the risk communication. That is what we call it at the level of international health regulations. That ability to inform those who are at risk of certain threats at the right time. Regulation is actually within 24 hours of their exposure to that threat. Now, fundamentally, I was actually leading on this function at the NCDC, and I know that it is expensive. So if we go back to the institutionalization of NCDC, therefore the cost of ensuring this risk communication function is fundamentally done across the country. Now, however, the work of the federal institution and the state and local government institutions are different when it comes to risk communication. The federal government would provide leadership, but the real work is actually in the hands of the local government. So part of the reason we had to set up Alert Clinic to make sure that it allows for decentralized communication. So now the local government authorities can now have a platform where they can properly educate those in their own local government in the language of their local government. And that's the kind of system that we hope we've been able to put in place today. So what we are now doing is get as many local governments on board to make sure that they are able to transfer this value to their own citizens. And now, But the real thing again is it is a fundamental function of the federal government to provide our leadership, provide our support to those subnational institutions, because the direction of conversation is going to be led by research and science, and this science is what we have to do at the federal level, because these are big financing. So like what he said, Nigeria is a country of systems, so we have systems in place. We just need to get them to function. We have Institute of Medical Research. We have Central Public Health Laboratory in Aba.
True.
We have a reference laboratory in several states in the country.
But getting them to work.
Just getting them to work. We can produce vaccine in this country even today, but just get them to move. So it is a case of desiring as a country to just move and play up to our aspirations. Nigeria is not a country. Nigerians have gone out of this country to do great things. The attitude we used to tackle Ebola was phenomenal. I know people that came from different parts of the world to ask us what changed in terms of our national attitude.
But are you seeing that attitude with monkeypox?
No, it cannot be. You see, what happened with Ebola even feels spiritual to me. Yes, because I don't know if no, what I mean is I don't know if we can summon that level of commitment, that level of national.
Because you look at some of the
fatality.
So pictures of some of the infected persons we have seen so far, monkeypox. It's quite scary.
Yes, it is scary. And the fact is, if you look at monkeypox rather, again, the good thing. So let's look at the advantage of this again is that it reminds us that there are several disease conditions that are kind of latent right now. We are not identifying them, but we need to we need to be much more thorough in our assumption of what can actually affect Nigerians. So his assumptions again on bioterrorism, these are facts. If you look at, it was even Bill Gates that said it, that in the past, the destruction of the world we thought was going to be through nuclear weapon, actually. But now, it will be much more faster to have a viral infection that spread around the globe to cause a lot of problems, to cause a much more bigger fatality or catastrophe in the human race. So yes, these are possibilities. However, the way to reason is the world doesn't need to go crazy because of those facts. People can actually use nuclear weapons right now too. We have charters that are controlling the operations of the world around nuclear weapons. We need to start developing similar charter around prevention of outbreaks. We cannot be doing a knee-jerk approach. It is overwhelming on the system. Can't we just set up a system once and for all that allows us to tackle these things from source, and we stay ahead all the time? It's not easy. It's going to cost money.
So how bad do you think this can get before it gets better?
I feel that it might run its course. I feel that more states might be affected because of the way it's spreading. And I feel that down the line, it is self-limiting and it will just go down. It will be much more interesting for us to go ahead and understand this, the pattern of spread. It is very important. I feel if I was a billionaire like Dangote, I would put money behind that. To understand what this is, are these isolated outbreaks? And then if they are not isolated outbreak, what is it that is actually spreading? And what is the factor that is contributing to this spread? Because it is an important scenario. I don't think within this period of time we've had this kind of outbreak in the past couple of years. So if it is the same strain that is spreading from this single source,
from a single source, because
a lot more interesting.
It's really important.
To go and investigate.
I have my doubts anyway. I just have my doubts that this is this single strain that's been spreading.
It will be very interesting
through this single source.
So as a matter of science, it would be inappropriate of us to assume anything at this stage.
Of course.
Let's leave epidemiologists. Nigerians have capacities to investigate this kind of thing. It's not like the science is new to us. It's just being able to put the kind of resources behind it. And most times it usually comes from the likes of the big box, the big money guys that to come and spend, like the WHO, to invest in the investigation of this. But it is worth investigating. So we learn quickly. You know, this is something that we can investigate.
Because it's not just enough to just stop the spread and then
go back on
that. That's my challenge.
Because that's what we've always done.
That's my worry. We've been most of the time reactive to all these epidemics when they come. We've not been proactive. You understand? We've not been able to look at it that, you know, why are we experiencing frequent spikes? You know, because what we've seen now, what we've seen in this nation in the past few years, is that we've been seeing too many spikes. You know, what I mean by spikes is that the jumps of those zoonotic
diseases
to human. We're seeing they are occurring too frequent. And whether it's killing people or not killing people, it calls for concern.
Yes.
Is it because, you know, we have so much poverty around us that makes our immune system so vulnerable?
When
so
we're not the poorest.
when we have the
Science,
when we have the science, you know, we're able to know how to deploy our resources. But again, that one is also a tall order. We have quite a lot of doctors, yes, for now, but for how many people? 200 million people. How many doctors do you have? How many epidemiologists do you have?
Right.
How many people are doing science?
Right.
You know, we're not even putting, you know, the right resources to drive people to do science, to drive them to study virology, to look at epidemiology. We're not even giving specific, you know, incentives to people to say that this guy, you know, we want you to be this. We're not even creating research institutions. People are not endowing chairs in different universities to look at specific things that can be a greater threat to us. Everybody wants to mention their tribe, their this thing, and want to have a conversation around what somebody this and this. These are not core issues that, because at the end of the day, when this thing, should this kind of thing happen, all of us, there's no safe haven. You have to breathe air. You have to drink water. And then,
So Madagascar right now, they are dealing with there's an outbreak going on in Madagascar right now. Forgotten it, and it's just to buttress the fact that it's airborne. So because it's airborne, it's plague. So there's a plague going on in Madagascar right now. So everybody has to just mask up.
Yes,
so thank God these things are not even the airborne. The avian influenza type of outbreaks, everybody.
If it happens now, if it happens in Nigeria, we're going to be in trouble.
So again, sir, to add, the idea of One Health is what allows us to reason animal and human health in one breath that we are looking at. And that's why I before I even left the NCDC, I know that right now all outbreak responses, especially those ones that have zoonotic implication, we now have the Ministry of Agric, especially the vet segment, and the physicians in epidemiology in ministry sitting together to look at these disease outbreaks side by side. What he said is very correct. Right now, the animal-human interaction will definitely increase with especially the fact that more people are going to the farms. And this is actually part of how we should be thinking as a country. Our agric revolution will imply more interaction. With the wild, and that might, as a matter of being proactive, that might attract certain costs in terms of diseases. So what we should just do is, again, it boils down to research, ability to understand what is even the current, what is going on in that animal ecosystem too. Are these animals dealing with some diseases? In terms of Lassa fever, for instance, some of the researches on Lassa fever response is now taking it into the mastomy rat to see, could we even prevent this outbreak straight from the rat itself? The way sometimes some look at malaria, looking at following the protozoan into the mosquito itself. So again, these are part of the way we need to start thinking. These are the realities. And like 2 years ago, there was a One Health meeting in Dakar, Senegal, and Nigeria was part of the meeting, and we agreed to a regional framework to control of zoonotic disease. This part of it is looking at antimicrobial resistance because of how people are growing animals now, especially those ones we eat. And also, it's a part of it is also in the engagement with animals in the wild, either through poverty and people that have to eat these things, or just because of adventurous human endeavor where people really love bushmeat and they will be going by the highway, they see an antelope.
And honestly, it's still a thriving business in Nigeria.
Yes, people still eat those animals. And then by the far extremes that do we want to agree that this is the ecosystem, these animals might be carrying these things? How do we prevent such diseases from jumping? Also through hygiene, through control of animal breeding in environments where people live.
Dr. Lawal, in other climate, what we tend to do is to set up what we call epidemic preparedness fund. You understand? The fund is set up in such a way that should we have an outbreak of epidemic?
I'm not sure we have that.
We won't be running here and there. So we won't be running here and there to look for money. At least the first line of response will have resources to really tackle that. And you see, interestingly, even at the level of WHO, I remember that I can remember that Germany, Japan contributes substantial amount of money. Some in terms of bonds to ensure that should the epidemic break out any part of the world, we can really, respond. You know, but for us, it becomes important, even at the level of the state, for us to set apart, even whether we did the framework of the National Emergency Management Agency, or we did the framework of National Health Insurance, to be able to look at it and say that, listen, should we have epidemic? Because epidemic is costly.
Yes, sir.
It's very costly, you know. both in human resources, both in terms of economy, both in terms of health. Epidemic is costly, and we should not, gloss over it. So if that kind of money is set aside, we'll be able to know that at least we can respond. We really know that we have money where we can rebuild some just of these key institutions, dealing with researches and virology research and all these things. We should be able to appreciate the fact that for us, there's no boundary between us and our ecosystem. Even if a leading country president does not believe in climate change, the thing is even facing him, with all the anger. Now, so for us, we know that there's no boundary between us and our ecosystem. We cannot just allow indiscriminate expansion of human settlement because this animal will come out. They also have the right to survive. You are not the one. They will look for food anyhow. They will also protect themselves anyhow. Okay? We cannot allow, indiscriminate mining activities, exploration of minerals, which, will have consequences on our health system, not just in terms of germs jumping to you, even you, releasing a lot of chemicals that can actually poison people. So we should be able to define clearly, interaction with human and animal. I know that.
Well, very quickly now, because we just have to end. We have to end this. If you were speaking to Nigerians now, what exactly would you be telling them as far as monkeypox goes? What would you be telling them to do to avoid contracting it?
Okay, so a lot of it has been said. It's a question of hygiene, a lot of hygiene and e-hygiene. Keep your house clean. Don't just sweep. It's not enough to sweep. Mop the floor. If you can afford some chlorine, just get a little jig. There are jigs in nylon now, in sachet. Dispense a little in water. Use it to wipe your house. You can do that maybe once in a week. Sweep your house clean. And then, high index of suspicion. Make sure that to the extent that it's possible, if you feel ill, walk into the hospital. This works not only for monkeypox, it works for a lot of diseases. And finally, making sure that we manage how we interact with especially ill people. We love supporting ourselves. We love embracing ourselves, which is right. But when you visit an ill person, do yourself a favor by doing proper social distancing. Because if the person is well, you really do not know what is going on in the person's body. So that is very, very important too. And then to the people, again, let us minimize panic. Because panic can also get you to do the wrong thing.
Just as we saw in the east of the country, the southeast of the country, where the issue of vaccination, started generating a lot of, but that's not what we're talking about.
So let's minimize that. This is not a political issue. Let's just take it out of the picture. Someone was telling me yesterday, I was in a cab in Abuja, I said, doctor, this thing is because somebody wanted to make money from somewhere. I said, no, nobody's making any money from somewhere. This is real. It's an outbreak, This is not the first time we're having an outbreak in this part of the world. We get used to it. Part of what is good now is people learn to talk about outbreaks, which is good in terms of narratives. People are now talking about it. I was looking at Google Analytics the other day. It shows that there's a major spike now in how we talk about these things, which is good for us. Because again, what it does is that it's an environment where if you put the right information, people will absorb. So whoever wants to perpetrate the wrong messaging too needs to be careful. So that's another message. These are media organizations or journalists or citizen journalists as we were. Don't let us use this platform to seed the wrong message into the population. And then finally, I just feel that government needs to do a lot more. Nigeria deserves a lot more. Nigeria is a fantastic country. People are committed to making this country great. Let us finance our Nigeria Center for Disease Control. Let us put the right resources in our in our Ministry of Health. Let us support the hard work of these people so that we can all reap the reward.
I'll have the last word from you.
Yeah, again, a lot has been said, rightly, but for this disease and for any disease, we know that. And
even you doctors are at risk.
Obviously, yeah. The thing is that the first jump is from animal to human. So let's actually be cautious in our interaction with animal. If you're a farmer, be cautious. If you are into animal husbandry, be cautious. If you are into mining, watch out. So, and if you are into preparing food and buying those bush animal, you need to actually, take more caution.
And for those living in urban cities, they should not live in the delusion that they can never come here.
They should never. The spread of this thing is. And then, like rightly said, we need to, raise our level of hygiene. And then at the level of hospital, we need to actually, the safety, universal safety precaution, we need to really put it in place now. And more importantly, anybody we can educate, we shouldn't even wait for government now. If you have a reason or a gathering that we can educate, let us educate them. I expect at the level of the churches and mosques, instead of them asking for tithe every time, this is a time for them to actually be part of the health system of a country. They need the congregants, and they must make sure they are healthy. And then any rashes in your body, please inform your health caretaker, so that they can be able to look at it and decipher which one is likely to be it. So I think simply go.
If I may add, for the healthcare workers, please, we forgot to mention that, like you said, universal standard precaution is key, and also keep high index of suspicion. If you see a patient with fever, don't just assume it's malaria again. If you see a patient with rashes, don't just think it's heat rash or anything. Let us raise our index of suspicion. Make sure that we treat every patient like it's an Ebola case. You don't need to put on the full PPE to prevent Ebola. Wearing gloves and face mask and your gown is sometimes enough for you to prevent yourself. So make sure that we have that index of suspicion, and the public health system is always there, at least for notification and response. Even if we cannot test all our samples today, we are able to respond and take samples and send to the appropriate laboratory. We have a Alert Clinic out there. People can download it. It's on Play Store on Google, and then we can also visit our website, alertclinic.com.
Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming on the program. And let's just hope this is stopped. It's quite scary. It's scary. I mean, the picture. Even for me, more scary than
it is.
You have blood of Jesus.
It's the way polio doesn't kill. Honestly, the way polio doesn't kill. Monkeypox may not kill, but it can become a social debility.
Yes, it can. It's really disturbing. All right, we'll take a short break and we'll be right back. Every day, every hour, and every minute, news break in Nigeria. Things happen so fast, it's most times difficult to track and comprehend them. But that's what we do right here on Digit 360. 2015, would you want to come back again?
It's like asking Jesus Christ if he knew he was going to die, will you want to come back as the savior of the world again?
We do not just help you track the stories, we break them down, explore all the angles, analyze the issues so that you can fully comprehend the stories and use them to make the right decisions.